So let's talk about activating the space a little bit more. When we activate the space, we now want to create a composition that is engaging to the viewer. And so what we're doing here is we've now got our two dots, our 2 points. This one is starting to become a little bit more like a plane because it's becoming larger in relationship to the ground. Our relationship between the two elements is good. It's interesting. There's enough contrast here that it engages us. We get to go from large to small or small to large out to the space and then back again. So we now have created a kind of triangular movement through our composition. Okay, so we could add a little bit more by creating a sense of bleeding. When we bleed the elements out of the format, we make the suggestion that this is now a window and that these elements are inside that window, and there could be other things outside the window. And so now we've created a sense of depth in the way that implies another sense of space. Okay, so if we want to add more tension, we can just simply touch the elements to the format edge. This creates a lot of tension, and this becomes focal points within the composition. Being aware of touching edges is important because when you create that sense of tension, your eye tends to go to the edge of the composition and then it leaves, which we really don't want. So basically, you want to either touch the side, which creates the tension point. You either bleed it off or you move it away. So those are two very important things to think about when you're putting something within that format. So let's talk a little bit more about the activating of space. So now we got 4 elements. They're in repetition, right? They're all squares. They're all the same size. They're all the same color. So a repetition of size, repetition of color, repetition of form or shape. Okay, so now this is something that it's good, right? It's off on the edge a little bit. So we have 4 elements. These could be 4 pictures. They could be 4 big letters. And the relationship of these elements is strong. The relationship of the form to the background, the figure, is also strong. So we find our eye pretty well engaged in this, but we can make it better by simply adding a little bit of difference. It's called anomaly. And so what anomaly does is it creates a sense of repetition, which is a sense of order and regularity, and then we break that somehow. And that creates obviously a very strong focal point. And now when we start to look, we go immediately to the anomaly, then probably follow down through the boxes, out into the space, and back to the anomaly. So now we've created a very nice circular motion, which is a very powerful way of moving our eye around the page. We will discuss eye movement in great detail as we move through the semester, but this is the first aspect of that. Now the next thing we can do is we can start creating that sense of space using a concept called gradation. Gradation is simply a mathematical progression. It can gradate in size, large to small. It can gradate in space, so the space is smaller, the space becomes larger, larger yet, and so on. We could create gradation of value, gradation of color, gradation of shape. So there's a lot of different kinds of gradation, but the dominant and easiest element in this situation is that illusion of space. It appears as though things are moving further away into the format. So this is a very powerful tool.